Titan Strength, multiple copies of Rebel Valmaka, multiple copies of main deck Legion Loyalists. So a lot of the same types of cards that propelled Tom to the Season 2 Invitational win a couple months ago.
James Mondrik on the other side of the table with blue-white control. You can see his hand. He's got some lands there, trying to figure out which one he does want to play. He's going to start off with the Temple of Enlightenment. He's already underneath the gun due to that Rakdos Cackler. As Tom is going to draw a card, he is going to play a Fire Drinker Satyr, come across here for 2, and it looks like he will be just passing the turn back without a second land to play. However, this is a deck that can operate pretty smoothly on one land.
It's not quite as low end as the Boss Sly deck, again, that Tom won the Invitational with, but it's still totally functional on 1 mana.
Tom draws another card. It's a Burning Tree Emissary. It is not a land. You can see a Stoke the Flames and an Ashes Eld in his hand. He's going to send in with these 2 creatures right now, probably hoping that there's no Azorius Charm, and doesn't look like Mondrik has one. You see the Supreme Verdict. There's also a Syncopate over there, but Mondrik will take 4. He's going to go down to 14. We'll see if Ross has a spell to play or not. And it looks like the answer is no. So Mondrik will draw a card. It's a copy of Planner Cleansing. Very telling, because that means he's not the Detention Sphere build. He is a Planner Cleansing build, which we have seen be popularized by Jim Davis when we were in Providence many moons ago.
And to me, this matchup is all about, does the blue-white control player have something to do on the second turn? Tom's way ahead on the board right now, and if he's able to draw a second land, his leftovers can probably defeat a Supreme Verdict. So James not having his Azorius Charm or Last Breath or something to do on turn 2 there might doom him, even though Ross is stuck on 1 land.
And there are 2 mana spells in James's deck. He does have 2 copies of Last Breath, also has 3 copies of Azorius Charm, and a Singleton Cyclonic Rift. So he definitely has things to do with 2 mana, just hasn't found one, as Ross does come across for 4 yet again. Mondrik's going to go down to 10. Ross still not having a land to play. Mondrik's going to play his 4th land. It's an island. There's the Supreme Verdict to clear those guys up. So Ross is going to have to rebuild now. He needs to draw the second land very soon, and he didn't find it again. It's a copy of Lightning Strike.
And it's pretty crazy if Tom doesn't have anything to play here, as his deck has Foundation Denizen, Rakdos Cackler, Fire Drinker Satyr, and Legion Loyalist as 1 mana plays.
And Tom will be discarding. He's going to discard a Firefish Striker before passing the turn back. And, you know, the other thing about Tom's deck list, normally in Boss Sly, you're going to see 17 to 18 lands. He has 21 this weekend, just unable to draw a second one. A Jace Architect of Thought's going to come into play here. We'll see how Mondrik wants to use this. So it's going to start at 4. We'll see if the elevator goes up or down on the Planeswalker.
It sounds funny to say, but Tom is going all the way up to a 3-mana spell here. He has 4 copies of Goblin Rabblemaster, which has been kind of the breakout card of M15 and the Pro Tour thus far, I would say.
That and Stoke the Flames have looked really, really good. M15 has given some very nice new additions as Jace is going to tick down. So we'll see a Dissolve, a Supreme Verdict, and an Island here from Mondrik. We'll see how Ross does want to separate these.
Well, Stoke the Flames definitely has had a big impact as well, but I think that it was much more on people's radars as a card that could be influential.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Expect to see a lot of that over the course of, you know, the next year. Stoke the Flames is just a really good card, as Ross is going to split lands versus spells, and Mondrik's going to very quickly take that Verdict and Dissolve.
Interesting spot there. You might say to yourself, how can Tom give him 2 spells there? But the short of it may be that he can't really give James one of those spells and a land, and has to hope that James maybe can't make his land drops and has to overvalue that island.
Ross draws another copy of Lightning Strike, has to discard before passing the turn back over to Mondrik. Mondrik's going to start by playing a Temple of Enlightenment. He will take a look. There's also a Sphinx's Revelation in his hand. Top card is going to go to the bottom. We'll see what Mondrik wants to do on his 6th turn of the game. Jace is going to tick up to 3. And he's got to be feeling pretty safe with a Dissolve available.
And now with a Revelation in hand, I think this game may be past the point of Tom being able to recover.
Oh, but wait, a second land. Might be a little late.
Yeah.
Just maybe. Ross again staring at 2 copies of Lightning Strike, also has a Burning Tree Emissary over there. You know, he has to decide now, especially because he knows that Mondrik does have a Dissolve in his hand, exactly what avenue he wants to take.
I think the best play for Tom here is to simply pass the turn, try to Lightning Strike James at the end of the turn, maybe draw out that Dissolve. But he can't just spend his turn running a creature into the Dissolve. That's too bad. So Tom just passes here, and I think that's the best thing he can do in this bad situation.
It's a rev for 2 here from Mondrik. See if Ross does have a response. Looks like he's gripping that Lightning Strike, deciding if maybe he wants to go at James, go at Jace. He's going to go at Jace, so that's gone. Mondrik will gain 2 life and draw 2 cards here from the rev.
And I like that play again from Tom. You don't usually like to use your burn spells on Planeswalkers with this kind of deck, but after James read for 2, he's kind of leaning on that Jace to be his source of card advantage. Tom may be able to make him fight card for card going forward if James doesn't have another Revelation or another Jace.
Another Temple of Lightman's going to come into play. Top card is going to go to the bottom here for Mondrik. See, there's also a Celestial Flare in his hand now. 2 of those as well. So he actually has a lot of 2-mana spells to interact against these red decks. Again, 2 Last Breath, 2 Flares, 3 Azorius Charms, and a Singleton Cyclonic Rift. I'm sure things get even worse for Ross after sideboard, but we'll get to that when we can.
But again, no Revelation, no Jace, no Elspeth. James's hand is very good here, but there is some risk of him flooding out. He has no way to really smooth that over right now. So things have been bad for Tom, obviously. He's discarded a hand size multiple turns. He's already been revved, all that stuff, but he's not out of the game just yet.
There is Burning Emissary. We'll see if this does resolve. And Syncopate says absolutely not. So away goes the powerful 2-mana spell from Ross's deck. Mondrik will untap here, as you mentioned, looking for one more really good card. Supreme Verdict is fine, and a Temple of Triumph will try to help. We'll see where he puts this card. That stayed on top real fast.
Just something to cement it, something proactive, and in this case, something like Jace or Revelation qualifies as proactive.
Yep. Ross will play a Burning Emissary yet again. That will be dissolved. So away that goes. Mondrik doesn't even need to scry because he knows that card's going to stay on top. Here's a Legion Loyalist. And that's going to come across here for 1, or at least try to, but Celestial Flare will take care of that. So just an exchange of resources here leads me to believe that there's probably a Rev or an Elspeth on top of the deck.
Some big draw. Even Aetherling is totally fine here.
Yeah, and it is Elspeth, Sun's Champion. There are 2 Aetherlings here in Mondrik's deck list. But 6 mana will be tapped for the Sun's Champion. That's going to come into play. 3 soldiers are going to come in as well with it. So Elspeth will move up to 5 before passing the turn back over to Tom. Tom will draw his card. It's a Firefish Striker. Again, that one's very late to the party. And Ash Zealot hanging out over there as well.
The only thing that Tom can really do here is try to build up a board and hope that Legion Loyalist steals it. That's his out to this spot, which is more of an out than most creature decks have against an active Elspeth.
Yeah, at least you have the opportunity to try to get back in the game.
As opposed to, I guess, a deck like Mono Black Aggro has Mogus' Marauder, but most beatdown decks are drawing pretty slim in this spot.
Yeah.
I still think that Tom's out of this because James now has multiple copies of Dissolve in hand. He can kind of just plus Elspeth and win at his leisure.
Makes it a little more difficult, one would say, as here come the soldier tokens. Ross is going to go down to 17, so now he's finally going to be put under the gun a little bit here, as Elspeth will likely continue to tick up here in just a moment. It looks like we're going to clear things away with the Supreme Verdict, and then tick Elspeth up to 6. So Mondrik has some interest in keeping the board as clear as possible.
Yeah, that looks like a weird play, but with James's hand as good as it is right now, he wants to take no risks.
Dissolve will take care of the Ash Zealot. Top card's going to go to the bottom. Here is a Fire Drink Crusader before passing the turn back. Mondrik will untap a fresh card coming, as he did scry that one to the bottom from Dissolve. Don't get a great look at it, but it is a Azorius Charm. It doesn't take much at this point for Mondrik to wrap it up. He's going to attack for 3 here yet again. Ross is going to go down to 14.
Even just plussing Elspeth and going for an emblem next turn does lock it up.
Basically good enough to get the job done. So 2 more soldiers here. So there those are. Ross draws a card for the turn. He's had that Maka all game. There's a Foundry Street Denizen over there as well. Just needed, I mean, truthfully, Tom, I think if he has a second land, he may have been able to win this one.
Pretty easily, I think. I mean, his opening hand is 1 drop into Burning Tree Emissary plus 2 drop.
Yeah.
And with James not making any sort of play until the 4th turn, that draw plus a lightning strike should be enough to get it done.
Yeah, the 4th turn would have been a Verdict or a Jace, but I think Tom would have dealt too much damage at that point for James to actually be able to catch up. So didn't break that way, obviously. We'll see if it does in the 2nd and or 3rd game.
Tom's follow-up with something like Legion Loyalist, Maka U, Lightning Strike is probably enough to kill, you know?
Here comes Fire Drink Crusader into the red zone. Tom kind of shrugging his shoulders. That's going to get Azorius Charmed. So that's going to go on top of the deck. And with Mondrik having Dissolve at the ready as well here, there's a Foundry Denizen. I wouldn't be surprised to see this get dissolved. Maybe he doesn't care. Yeah, he's just going to counter this. Just exchanging resources early and often.
Even if James loses a token here, he still has lethal coming across with an Elspeth emblem, so he can afford to be very aggressive with his counters here.
James will untap. I think Tom does have a lightning strike. Yeah, so he's going to lightning strike Elspeth on the upkeep to bring it from 7 down to 4, just so it can't go ultimate here. And what Tom is basically doing here is, he's just fighting the good fight.
That's one word for it.
He is fighting the good fight, hoping that somehow he can deal the last 12 points of damage.
Well, I think another thing that's going on here is just make James show you more cards, make him play it out.
Sure. Get some info. Tom could have conceded this game, but it helps that, maybe it helps him that he saw Celestial Flare a couple turns ago. Now James has drawn a copy of Last Breath this turn. He also has a Planner Cleansing in his hand. So Tom is very unlikely to win this game, but if he can extract any information for the next 2 games, that'll be a big deal.
And he hasn't seen Detention Sphere yet either.
Correct.
So maybe James casts that and you get a little more information there as well.
Yep, well, he is going to concede the game now. So James Mondrik is going to win game number 1 here over Tom Ross. Blue-White Control up a game over Rabble Red. As we're going to move on to the sideboards, we will take a look at the bosses first.
A Peak Eruption, 2 Magma Sprays, an Electrickery, a Titan Strength, a Dynacharge, a Legion Loyalist, 2 copies of Skullcrack, 2 Mizia Mortars, and 4 copies of Eidolon of the Great Revel. I think you're going to see Eidolon come in here. It's not really an explicitly Eidolon matchup. It's not like James has that much cheap stuff. But Tom's life total is almost irrelevant. So even if you get the Eidolon to trigger once or twice, it's done very good work there. I'm not sure if Tom wants to bring in Mizia Mortars. James is, obviously a control deck, but these decks often side into Archangel Thune or Burmaz. So you may want to have some hedge there. 2 copies of Skullcrack are pretty easy to bring in. Helps a lot against Archangel, Sphinx's Revelation, and so forth. Beyond that, I'm not sure if he's going to want to go to more of the pump spells. There is an argument for bringing in something like Dynacharge, like Titan Strength to try to accelerate your Goldfish. But it does magnify how bad Supreme Verdict is for you when you have a bunch of help spells. So I'm not sure what the right mix is supposed to be, but it's possible he goes to Dynacharge as well to try to get more turn 3 and turn 4 kills.
Sideboard over here gets a little bit more ugly for the red deck. 3 copies of Nyx Fleece Ram, 3 copies of Burmaz, King of Oreskos, 2 Negate, 2 additional copies of Celestial Flare to go along with the 2 in the main deck. An opportunity to Dispel an Elspeth, a Jace, and a copy of Deicide. So you have to expect to see those Rams and those Burmazes come in. That's 6. Maybe Negates would be 7 and 8. Flares could be number 9 and number 10. So there are a lot of cards here for Mondrik to bring in.
Yeah, no shortage, and a lot of cards to cut as well. So he gets to make some pretty significant upgrades here. The presence of Nyx Fleece Ram and, to a lesser extent, Jace is why I do like pump spells against Blue-White Control, even though it's not intuitive. Helps you bust through Nyx Fleece Ram, helps you finish off Jace before it does too much damage. And even in the worst case scenario, it can usually be a Lava Spike. So even though it doesn't seem like those kind of cards, Maka and Titan Strength, are well suited to the Blue-White Control matchup, in my experience, they've been pretty good. And sometimes players get really sloppy with Last Breath and play it inside of combat,
Sure.
And then you can really do some damage with those cards.
Now, before we do begin game number 2 here, both players going to finish sideboarding up. We're going to talk about one of many announcements that we're going to be making this weekend. We announced this just a couple days ago on Star City Games. We'll be changing our weekly publishing schedule. Now, why does this matter for you? Well, first of all, it starts on Monday. So if you do go to the website at midnight Eastern time, like I've been accustomed to over the years, you're not going to find new content. You're still going to see my article and Jerry's article and, our Versus video with BBD and Andrew Shrout, CVM and Andrew Shrout still on the page. We're changing it to 11 a.m. Eastern time for numerous reasons, one of which is because, hey, no one's in the office at midnight East Coast time.
If there's mistakes in the articles, an image needs to get changed, whatever the case may be, it doesn't get fixed for a couple hours. So it's just better for the content, for Star City Games to be able to be more responsive to the content when it goes up.
I do strive for perfection, of course, but
mistakes are going to be made.
I do make mistakes. Mistakes will be made everywhere. These things do happen. Nobody's perfect. So we want to be able to fix those mistakes for you right away, because when we put them up at, midnight, no one's in the office until 10 in Roanoke. So you guys have to wait 10 hours to get a mistake fixed. So, for example, the Versus video that went up on the Select side, there was an error in it.
Yeah.
That sucks for you guys.
You could be staring at a comma that's supposed to be a semicolon for literally 10 hours.
Yeah, that's a long time.
That is a long time to look at a punctuation error. So this swap doesn't really impact too much. Just allows Star City Games to be a little more responsive to the content as it goes live on the website.
We want to make sure that when you guys come to the website, the content is the best it can possibly be. And if we do make errors, we want to get them changed right away. It's easier to do that when our people are in the office as opposed to not in the office. So bear with us. This change is something that you will get used to. I do promise it's not the end of the world. 11 a.m. beginning on Monday.
Okay.
That means I have to wake up at 8 a.m. every day.
But you kind of already do that.
Yeah, but not by choice. I actually just can't sleep late anymore.
Okay.
How long? What is your natural wake up time?
My natural wake up time?
Like when do you just no alarm, you just wake up?
And nothing too crazy's gone on the night before?
Sure.
Probably around 10 o'clock in the morning.
Wow, that must be nice. That must be really good.
What do you mean?
I can't sleep till 10 anymore. It's not possible.
Oh, okay. Yeah, probably about 10 o'clock.
In my college days, it was 2 p.m.
Oh, forget it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's totally different.
Yeah. Now oftentimes it's actually like 6:45 a.m. I rise and shine and I can't fall back asleep. It's actually kind of awful.
During my Magic Online poker grinding days, I was actually full nocturnal. So yes, I'm familiar with
flip?
Oh yeah, full flip.
Yeah, that was my freshman year of college. I would go to sleep at 10 a.m., wake up at 7 p.m., and then run to the dining hall before it closed. Got to get that value.
Yeah, gotta get that value.
Can't miss out on my free food. And then stay up all night long playing Magic with the Purdue faithful. Those were the days. Those were the days.
For me, it was you had to make sure you were timing your hours so you could play poker against the Russians, because those people were rich and did not care about anything. They had that oil money rolling in, man.
Yeah, you're a college
They
student.
did not care.
You got to get that. You got to get that as a college student.
Yeah.
Times are tough.
Yep. You got to grab with two hands.
So Tom Ross is going to be on the play here against James Mondrik for game number 2. Did not find a second land on time in game number 1 and got taken care of pretty easily there by Mondrik, as Mondrik's hand wasn't great but good enough to get the job done. We'll see if Ross can apply the necessary pressure this go around, but things certainly do get a lot worse for him.
Game 1 is the one that Tom's supposed to take, especially against the Bill doesn't have detention sphere.
Yes.
That usually means that if Tom's on the play, turns 2 and 3 are largely uncontested. Now post-board, James has some real cards to bring in.
So James is going to draw it up, and Ross is going to send it back. Mondrik, he'll go back as well. So both players are going to take a look at a brand new 6 here in just a moment. I do think that this matchup, I'm not sure if it favors Tom, period, but the sideboarding games seem like a nightmare.
They are really bad. That's why it's so important to get the first game. Compared to a deck like Esper, let's say, Blue-White Control is much better against mono-red aggro. You have many more lands that come into play on tap. You get to play more copies of Mutavault. And the black cards aren't substantially better than white cards you could be playing in their place. So this is one of the types of matchups where sticking to just the Blue-White Control build is a big upgrade.
It doesn't seem like we've seen a lot of Esper recently.
It's definitely diminished, for sure.
A lot more blue-white. You know, remember those 12 Temple Esper builds, many months ago that people were just raving about at how good they were, and they certainly were good then. Doesn't seem like they're very good now, though.
Well, the decks in Standard come at you from a lot of different angles, and they're all pretty fast. So casting yourself on time is at a premium, and you just can't really mess around with missing colors and having so many lands come to play tapped. I think Esper is still a fine deck. There's nothing wrong with it, but I think that if I wanted to play a Revelation deck, I'd be playing blue-white. And this is one of the types of matchups that pays you off for that decision.
Especially with that kind of hate in his sideboard, too. One thing to note, and we're going to probably talk about Stoke the Flames a lot because it does look to be a fantastic card from M15. It does a nice job of taking care of a card like Blood Baron, Stormbreath Dragon as well. Also takes care of Ramaz.
And your opponent.
That, too.
Kills your opponent, too.
Yeah. That's just a good Magic card.
And it's possible, when you have 4 Stoke the Flames in your list, that you no longer have to bring in Mizzy and Mortars as a hedge. Maybe you'll only bring it now against Stormbreath Dragon, Corsair, Krufix style decks. Because against these sort of decks, you don't have to bring it in. Stoke the Flames can still tag Archangel or whatever, Bramaz, whatever card you're worried about.
Well, the boss is going to keep his hand. He's going to play a Fire Drink Crusader to start things off before passing the turn back over to Mondrik. You see Mondrik did keep his 6 as well. Has temples to choose from in Triumph and Enlightenment, and he will begin with Enlightenment. Take a look at the top card. Leaves it considering if he wants to move it to the bottom or not. You can also see a Sphinx's Revelation. There looks to be a Celestial Flare and a Bramaz in his hand. He's going to leave it on top. So Ross will draw a card. He's going to play a Mountain. This is Nylon of the Great Revel, and that's an attack for 2. So Mondrik's going to go down to 18. This is a better draw.
Yeah, and like I said, this is not the best matchup for Eidolon, but there's enough cheap stuff. And more importantly, Tom just does not care about his life total. So any trigger is basically a freebie.
Yep.
I think Tom would happily cash in 6, 8 life points to get this Eidolon to trigger once on James' side of the table.
Yep. I'm just going to play a Temple of Triumph. Take a look at the top card here again. You see the Burmaz. That's probably going to come down next turn to try to be the stopper. Top card's going to go to the bottom from the Temple. Mondrik just has to pass the turn back, so Ross is going to get to untap. He's going to take a draw here. It's a mountain. He will play that. This is a Goblin Rabble Master. The beatdowns are on, and Tom says, yeah, I will take 2 to deal you more than that. And this is the new card. Oh my God, there I am. This is the new card. I didn't expect myself to see play on day 1.
This is maybe the biggest part about the Rabble Masters. We're going to be seeing a lot more of you on camera for the next couple weeks.
That's a good job, Watsy. That is a good job. Now the Rabble Master is going to, provide damage, going to allow Tom to attack for some damage here. Tom really doesn't have to put anything else on the board.
No.
At this point, it's like, okay, no more creatures. You have to have Verdict. If you have Jason, it's really not even that big of a deal. And Mondrik here has to master cast. If he does play that, he takes 2 from the Eidolon, goes down to 11, and heaven forbid Tom has to stoke the flames or some way to clear that out of the way. This game ends almost immediately.
Even if Tom has nothing, it's not even clear James has enough to really get out of this with Burmaz.
Just keep it going.
Yeah. I mean, Burmaz is one of the better cards he can play here, don't get me wrong, but Tom's draw here has been good enough that might not be enough.
There is Burmaz. So the trigger here from the Eidolon is going to put Mondrik down to 11. But now we get to see the Rabble Master in action. And this card has looked pretty good. And it looks like Tom has another copy of the Rabble Master in his hand. Not sure if he wants to deploy that one or not, but he's certainly going to do the math and try to figure out what the best way to go is here. Now the boss is going to sit up in his chair and figure out, all right, how do I work my way through this Ramaz? And I want to make sure I get this game because I'm in some pretty good position right now. He does have a Mutavault as his 4th land to play. Don't think he has to stoke the flames. I believe he would have cast that by now, but maybe he doesn't need to.
Looks like his hand is Skullcrack too. So Tom may be trying to determine, let's say I make an attack and he blocks as I expect with Burmaz. Is he in a position where he still needs to play Supreme Verdict next turn to stay alive, and then does my Skullcrack plus Mutavault finish it off?
Rabble Master number 2 is going to come in. That's going to trigger each one of those, so 2 more Goblin tokens are going to come into play, and I imagine the original Rabble Master is going to give some beatdowns here as well. This is looking pretty good. Now, Rabble Masters, I believe, make the others attack. No, okay, well, the first one has Summoning Sickness, so the first one can't attack. Okay, gotcha. So in they come.
Goblins must attack, and the tokens it generates have haste.
Correct. Now, of course, when the Goblin Rabble Master does attack, he gets +1/+0 until on the turn for each other attacking Goblin. So right now, that Rabble Master is a 5/2.
So not to redirect the conversation much here,
okay,
but Legacy, is there some legs here?
I didn't think so, but I would be happy to be wrong. I would be very happy to be wrong about that. I mean, it certainly looks good right now. I'll tell you that much. Of course, Goblins has a lot of 3-mana spells in Legacy with Matron and War Chief and a bunch of other things, but the Rabble Master is trading for Burmaz straight up here. So 2, 4, 5, 6, 7 damage is going to come across. Mondrik's going to go down to 4, and even if he has Supreme Verdict here, he's still dead.
Yeah, Ross has a Mutavault attack alongside his Skullcrack, so
the best card that Mondrik could play this turn to Supreme Verdict, and it's still no good. So Tom Ross is going to win this game as James Mondrik does concede, and that, my friend, is the power of a Goblin Rabble Master.
It was on display, and again, this is another point of emphasis here. James needs to do something on turn 2.
Yes.
He mulliganed that game, maybe he can't go to 5. Yep. If he has Burmaz and lands to cast Burmaz, he can't mulligan that kind of hand. But James still had a turn 3 Burmaz, and even if he had turn 4 Jace or Supreme Verdict, he would have died to Tom's draw.
Yep.
So it's really important for him to have Last Breath, Azorius Charm, Celestial Flare. The ideal is Nyx Fleece Ram, but something to do on turn 2, because he can't fall that far behind.
Well, game number 3 is what we'll be heading in just a moment. Looks like Ross is going to go at the sideboard. Mondrik is going to do the exact same here. I'm not entirely sure what does change here, but I think that Mondrik is in a very, very good spot being on the play. But as you mentioned, he's got to find something to do on turn 2.
Well, on the play, it gets a little bit easier for James. And he can keep hands like, I don't do anything until I cast Burmaz on the 3rd turn. But it's still risky. I mean, Tom's draws are capable of being so explosive. And with Mutavaults in the list, he has some staying power as well. So James can keep slightly slower hands on the play, but he still needs to have early interaction.
As these two players do finish shuffling up, game number 3 will be underway in just a moment. We'll talk about one of our favorite brand new things here at Star City Game beginning in September. It's SCG Game Night.
Yeah, we've announced this a couple months ago, and we're getting really close to having its debut in September. Participation happens at local stores. 2 pins and 8 foil tokens are given out per week. We're going to have new pins and foils designed each month, every Wednesday night at your local store. This is supposed to be a little more casual, focused, organized play, so these events can be run whatever format the store wants. Sanctioned, unsanctioned, doesn't matter. Just get people to come out to your local store. And so starting in September, stores can get this set up right now. The program itself will be live in September, and you can go to starcitygames.com/game night for more information.
Last chance to sign up. August 11th is when the cutoff is, so get you guys all set up for September. So if you do want to sign up, again, starcitygames.com/game night. There you do see the Twitter hashtag SCGN. Definitely get this taken care of. 2 pins, 8 foil tokens per week, new pins and foils each month. There you do see the pin and the tokens that will be given out as our Squirrel Creature Collection series. Hope you guys are looking forward to it. We are too. Just bringing some more organized play to the grassroots level.
Yeah, I mean, we do such a good job over at Star City Games of giving, mid-level organized play, the IQs, and then to the opens and the invitationals and so forth. But we wanted to add something a little more to the local level, more store-focused. And to that end, Star City Game Night coming in September. Every Wednesday night, a great opportunity just to get more people in your store, more foot traffic, more tournaments, and have prizes that people care about, but they aren't necessarily going to be pulling each other's hair out for. So stores can feel a little more comfortable running things like Two-Headed Giant or Commander as their format if they're feeling that's what their local player base wants.
And as my good friend Mr. Pitbull would say, it's now worldwide.
Mr. Worldwide.
Yes, Mr. Worldwide himself. I do apologize.
Morocco.
I do apologize for the Pitbull reference. I will make no more of those this weekend. Mr. Worldwide.
Mr. Worldwide.
Game 3 going to be underway here as both players are shuffling up. I still think this one does favor Mondrik quite a bit here. Ross, fantastic at playing these red decks. I'm sure he's beaten many bad blue-white control matchups, but I don't know if he's ever beaten one that looks to be this bad.
It's tough. The blue-white player definitely can bring a lot of hate to the table if they're feeling so inclined, and James has almost all that you would want. I mean, with the exception of Fiendslayer Paladin, he basically has all the cards you would want in the matchup.
I think that's the only one he really doesn't have. And it's actually kind of tough, right? Which one is better, Fiendslayer Paladin or Bramaz? Is maybe that 3-drop hate creature that you're looking for.
Now it's Stoke the Flames. It's possible that it's back to Fiendslayer Paladin. Against Boss Sly, I always felt that Bramaz is the better card because Boss Sly has so many pump effects that Fiendslayer Paladin doesn't really do anything. In builds where I had Rubble Belt Maka and Fire Fist Striker, I always felt Fiendslayer Paladin's kind of bad for me, but actually not the end of the world. Whereas an unchecked Bramaz is definitely game over and much harder to kill, and still leaves a token behind that can usually trade with something, even if Rubble Belt Maka or Titan Strength or whatever allows you to plow through it. They are close.
They definitely are close.
They're close. But Fiendslayer Paladin can do work against Burn, whereas Bramaz is not great there, so I think these decks often err towards siding Fiendslayer Paladin, but maybe Bramaz has some legs against a deck like blue-white. Sorry, not blue-white, green-white, rather.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Let's not forget, on our backup match, Joe Lissette is doing battle, presumably with some sort of blue-white control deck. I can't imagine he'd be playing anything else. And he is currently leading our Season 3 leaderboard. So, if we do have time, we will head that way and watch him do battle, see if he can expand his lead here. Again, we have 11 rounds. That is not a typo in the bottom right-hand corner. 11 rounds, 732 players coming out here to Fort Worth, Texas to do battle. So if Joe wants to expand his lead, he's going to have to win a whole lot of matches of Magic this weekend.
It's going to be a long day.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Ross taking a look at his opening hand. Mondrik going to do the same. I did see a Nyx Fleece Ram over there. Again, Mondrik will be on the play. There's a Mutavault. I also see a Holophant. I believe a Temple and Lightning as well. So it looks like Mondrik has a pretty good hand. You mentioned that he does need something to do on turn number 2, and Nyx Fleece Ram is there. And it looks like he's going to keep. Will Tom is the question.
Nyx Fleece Ram plus Azorius Charm is a really good start here for James.
And getting a Scry on turn 1 too, to maybe smooth out the draw a little bit, is pretty good too. And there's actually 2 Azorius Charms over there, so this can get really bad for Tom. But the boss will draw a Mountain, and now he will play a Fire Drinker Save before passing the turn back over to Mondrik. Mondrik with a Mutavault. And it's time for the Ram. So the 05 is here and it's in the way. Ross will draw a card. It's a copy of Eidolon of the Great Revel. See how he wants to proceed here. As you mentioned, this is why the pump spells in this deck are so good. Rebel Belt Maka, Titan Strength, being able to work your way through these annoying creatures.
And again, it helps against Jace too. Usually allows you to just trade up and kill a Jace, and can almost always be Lava Spike. The games where it can't be Lava Spike means that something terrible has gone on anyway, so it's unlikely that a different creature would have saved you there.
It's basically a free attack by Tom here. If Mondrik blocks, that's cool, and we'll see if Mondrik actually does want to block, because he might value that Ram pretty highly and doesn't want to get blown out by a Titan Strength or Rebel Maka.
And with Azorius Charm in his hand, he has protection from the scenario in subsequent turns. He could, if he wants to, take this hit and then set up a board where if Tom does have pump spells, he can Azorius Charm and blow Tom out.
I do like the attack here from Tom because it's freebie. Well, Tom says, all right, I have a Rebel Maka, get that thing out of the way. See if he has a follow-up play here. That's the big one. Here's a mountain, and he does not. So no additional one drop to play. Mondrik will draw his card. He's going to play another copy of Nyx Fleece Ram, and I believe a Hollow Fountain will come into play tapped here. So this is still a very, very good start here for James. And there is the Hollow Fountain before passing the turn back over to Ross.
And that might have been the thing that ultimately compelled James to block that previous turn, is that it's free for Tom to attack. So even if he doesn't have a pump spell, he's making the same attack there.
Ross was probably okay with playing against one Nyx Fleece Ram. Doesn't look like he's okay with playing against a second one, though. We'll see if he can work his way through this. 3 mana. Now that makes things difficult. In we come to the red zone with the Goblin trigger from the Rabble Master. And of course, Fire Drinker Satyr will get blocked, so 1 damage will come across. Mondrik's gonna go down to 19, then back up to 20.
This is the first time I've seen the Rabble Master in action, and man, oh man, is this the type of card that's gonna help you against Nyx Fleece Ram.
Yes. Yeah.
This could compel a Supreme Verdict on its own. I mean, Tom may not have to do anything else as long as he's able to keep the Rabble Master in play.
And you can see Mondrik's hand right now. There are 2 Azorius Charms over there that we do know about. It looks like the rest of the grip is just lands. So he does need some spells to work himself out of this. You know, a lot of the times when Blue-White Control plays against these red decks, it's all about the 4 mana spells, Verdict or Jace. They're both backbreakers. But it doesn't look like he has either one of those right now.
And with no Detention Sphere in his list, Rabble Master's a huge problem.
Yep. There's a Plains. That'll give Mondrik the ability to activate Mutavault and cast Azorius Charm in the same turn. Ross is going to untap. He will take a draw. It's a copy of Titan Strength. Does he have any interest in maybe casting Eidolon of the Great Revel before combat? That could be an option available to Tom.
Potentially, though he may feel like James will have to pull the trigger on Supreme Verdict just against this. So he may be able to be a little more conservative. Now that said, Eidolon's, not really getting better, so maybe Tom wants to deploy it now.
The boss is going to go into the tank here. If there's anyone that can figure out how to do it with the red deck, it's him. He will begin by playing Eidolon of the Great Revel pre-combat. That means if Mondrik wants to cast a Last Breath of Celestial Flare, Azorius Charm, he's going to have to take 2 to do so. So, the Great Revel is in. It's time to trigger the Rabble Master. See Tom looking at maybe a Mutavault activation here. Does have Titan Strength still. Maybe he goes a reaching. We'll see.
Now Mutavault's nice here because it's a Goblin, so it gets the Rabble Master up to 5 attack, which means the Ram can no longer block it.
Yep.
See, it's Goblins. It's a Goblin deck.
See,
Rabble Master and Mutavault.
It's neat.
Tribal synergies.
Yeah, and everybody's coming to the red zone now. So Mutavault does get active, and we're going in. Now, I wouldn't be surprised to see maybe Mondrik trade his Mutavault for the Rabble Master, but this is a pretty aggressive attack here.
Yeah, well, there's only one way to find out what James has, and that's to do this.
Yep.
And with an Eidolon in play, even if he does have some tricks, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, I think you're Tom right now. Basically what you're saying is, okay, well, I have to work my way through this nonsense. I know my opponent probably has something if they didn't cast one of their 4 mana spells. So this turn's not going to go perfect for me, but I have to work my way through his tricks. I can't, like do nothing.
Right.
You know, the Azorius Charm is going to be good. Celestial Flare is probably going to be pretty good. But I have to work my way through those things and hope that he doesn't draw great afterward.
If you play around everything, you often lose to Elspeth or Revelation. So you just have to kind of do things.
So here's an Azorius Charm, and it looks like it's targeting Mutavault. Now James's Mutavault looks like it wants to do some blocking here. What I love about this attack too is that it causes James to make the right decisions with his cards. You know, what are the appropriate blocks? Because Tom's not giving me any information. You know, he's just like, look, I'm attacking with all of my creatures. I don't have mana available for tricks. You have to play your cards appropriately now because you don't actually know what cards I care about that are in play. Tom might be more than happy with, okay, if you wants one of those goblins, that's fine. Our Realm Master's still alive.
Well, he's just trying to get as much trading in as possible so that if James has Supreme Verdict, he himself is low on cards. He can't absorb a 4-for-1 here and leave James with 5 cards in his hand. That's not acceptable. So he's going to have to play the game like this to at least attrition out James's resources.
So the dust does settle. Mondrik is at 12. And it looks like he may have missed the trigger with the Nyx Fleece Ram. So it looks like we're going to find out exactly if he did remember to gain a life or not. Because it looked like he drew his card first and then wanted to trigger that, but it's at the beginning of your upkeep. You gain a life off Nyx Fleece Ram, so it is his trigger, his responsibility.
And this could be a big point of life.
Yeah. You can see both players look to be talking to the judge a little bit here. You see Tom kind of motioning, well, he drew and then he triggered that, and that's a no-no.
Yeah.
That's a no life gainer. So we'll see, especially in a game like this. I mean, you're going to do this at any point in the tournament anyway, but a spot like this, it is crucial.
This has the makings of a game that could definitely come down to 1 damage.
Yeah. So we're going to get it all figured out here. But Tom's last turn was a pretty good one. Azorius Charm did take care of the Mutavault, so we know what Tom's going to draw next turn.
Yeah.
That we do already know will be a Mutavault. And Tom does have the Rabble Master out there, which is creating a little bit of havoc. Fire Drink Crusader with mana, of course, can pump. You've got Eidolon making it so that if Mondrik wants to cast those cheaper spells to interact, he's going to have to take some damage to do so. We also know Tom has a Titan Strength in his hand.
And tons of stuff to do with his mana next turn. With nothing else in play, he still gets 2 pumps out of Fire Drink Crusader. So even if Tom adds nothing to his board, he has plenty of ways to leverage his mana, which is just a great spot to be in if you're an aggressive deck.
Yeah.
Now we're working in the spot where even if James has something like Supreme Verdict, it's not backbreaking. The Nyx Fleece Ram is down, and Tom has plenty of stuff left over to work with.
Yeah, he can rebuild pretty easily. We know he has, Rakdos Cackler in his hand. He has a Mutavault coming off the top of his deck, which will allow him to rebuild. So we know that he does have some things in reserve. Now, I'm not sure exactly how much Jace will gum up things here. Maybe a little bit, maybe a lot. Hard to say. As you do see the judge there explaining exactly what is going on. And again, when we do have the ruling, we will let you guys know exactly what it will be. But right now, as we do work our way into game number 3 here, you see we're going to be underneath maybe 10 minutes after this is all said and done. The players will get an extension on time. But things are looking okay for Tom this game. Mondrik, again, has only lands an Azorius Charm in his hand. So I'm not sure what his best draw is in this situation, but it does look like the ruling is taken care of. And again, we'll let you guys know exactly what that is in just a moment.
Yeah, the thing is, the game is still shaping up to a spot where Elspeth can still get it done for James, even if Supreme Verdict doesn't necessarily do it.
And the ruling right now is that it was not a mistrigger, but Tom is going to appeal, so we are going to let you look at us. How about that?
Sure.
They have no choice. You have to look at us now. Take that. Back in the booth, Cedric Phillips, Patrick Sullivan. Again, once we do have this ruling taken care of, we will, of course, let you guys know exactly what it is in play. We'll continue, but you guys don't want to stand there and just look at that. That's
so for
boring.
those of you who are not familiar with exactly how tournament magic worked, a judge gets called, a 4-judge comes over, they offer a ruling. Either player has the right to appeal to the head judge. And then the head judge's decision is final. So the ruling made there was that it was not a mistrigger. Tom did not like that ruling. He is now appealing to the head judge. Head judge is coming over. And then that ruling is final from the head judge.
Correct.
So if you're not familiar with tournament proceedings, that's how it works.
2 things. 1, never feel bad about calling a judge.
Never.
I know that some people and some players, newer players and stuff like that, like, I feel like I'm kind of being a jerk or something like that. If you're unsure of something, call a judge. That's what they're here for.
Yeah.
You know, there are about 15 or 20 of them on staff this weekend. They're walking up and down the rows not to watch magic. They're to make sure that everything is the way it's supposed to be.
All that you can hope for are clean matches.
Correct.
That's kind of what you're hoping for here. The judges are here to help provide that. I know that there's sometimes this undercurrent in the culture of, especially amongst newer players or players that are getting introduced to the tournament scene, of like, you know, don't be rude, don't call a judge, man, we can sell this ourselves. You know, don't lean on that.
Yep.
It's well within your right. If there's ever any uncertainty, something you want to get cleaned up, something that looks suspicious to you, do not hesitate to call a judge.
Second, don't be afraid to appeal, because, hey, sometimes the first judge is incorrect.
Right.
And if you're unsure if they are correct or not, or you want a little bit more certainty, that's what the appeal process is for.
Yeah.
I have had rulings overturned many times when I was playing professional Magic where the first judge got it wrong. And that's what the head judge is there for, because they're levels above their floor judges, so their knowledge is more intricate and deeper, and they can be, you know, fairly sure. You know, you're fairly sure when the head judge makes a ruling, it is correct.
The mixture of Magic's rule set and then the totally separate Magic's organized play rule set, the tournament structure rules, it's a really complicated set of things to memorize. And even the best judges are not going to bat 100%. There's just too much to know. They're gonna make mistakes. So again, never be afraid to appeal, because the person who gave you the initial ruling may not be correct, and there's nothing wrong with a little additional certainty. What's the worst case scenario? Head judge comes over, agrees with the original ruling, and life goes on. That's the worst case scenario. It's not like they look down on you or you accumulate some history for calling judges. So just do it.
That's why they're here.
Keep the matches clean, make sure everything's above the table, and make sure that the judges are there to provide you the best experience possible.
Ruling is upheld. So it looks like Mondrik will gain the life off the Nix's ramp. He's going to go up to 13. He's already drawn his card for the turn, so now play does continue. I'm sure these players are getting an extension, so we do have 8 minutes here. And we'll find out what the extension here is in just a minute, so that we do have the appropriate time for you guys. Mondrik's going to take a look at that Ravel Master, and I would too, because that thing's causing some problems.
Oh, yeah. And it looks like James has picked up a Jace here, but even that's not providing a ton of defense right now, because the Ravel Master is generating so much power. Jace is good against the tokens, but Ravel Master, that gets pumped. Idle on still point of power. Fire Trigger Satyr can be pumped. So this is good here for James, but not the backbreaker it usually is.
The other thing, too, is if Jace is the play this turn, the shields are down.
Yeah.
So Tom has free reign to do whatever he wants, and that's a much more comfortable situation, because presumably Jace would come into play and it would tick up, and then Tom says, all right, so I have to beat these -1/-0 triggers and a Nyx Fleece Ram on this turn? I can do that. So there is Jace. It's going to play more of a role of like a really nice fog, I feel like, this turn.
Though, that would be great if James had something like Elspeth or Revelation in his hand, but with his hand is just Landon Azorius Charm, he needs to find something, I think, more significant than Jace to really get through this.
Tom draws, puts the Mutavault directly into play. You see Tom's hand, he does have a Stoke the Flames in it. So if a Bramaz does show up, or heck, even an Archangel of Thune, even though that's not in the deck list, Stoke the Flames can take care of either one of those cards.
Stoke the Flames is great. I mean, I played red aggro lists where I've started Mizium Mortars because there's just enough Corsair crew fix type of action going on in the format. You have to kill that stuff. Being able to change that slot into something that you can target the player with is an enormous upgrade. Helps against Planeswalkers too. This is a big upgrade for red aggressive decks. Both bird strategies that are using Young Pyromancer and sort of the more conventional Sly curve that we see Tom use in this tournament.
Tom is in the tank, trying to figure out exactly what he does want to do. I believe his 3 cards in there right now, again, are that Stoke the Flames that we did mention. There's a Titan Strength, and there's a Rakdos Cackler. You saw him take his Mutavault from the top of his deck, put it directly into play. Tom knew it was there. James knew it was there. We knew it was there. You knew it was there. So, how does he move forward? That's the big question. And he's trying to figure that out right now. The Mutavault won't get to attack this turn. He does have a Titan Strength that he can use aggressively. But now the big question is, do I go after Jace? Do I ignore Jace? How will my opponent block? What do I care about? A lot of things on this turn. I think this is the biggest turn of the game.
For sure. Tom can correctly identify weakness here. James hasn't done anything super good yet. Now the question is, does Tom need to go after James's life total or try to kill Jace? I mean, Tom isn't even necessarily just dead to Elspeth next turn. He's got enough 2-darkness creatures, enough stuff to do that James is still going to take some damage.
Just so that you're aware at home, our clock is accurate. Players were given a slight extension here. So we're underneath 10 minutes left to go in this third game between Ross and Mondrik. Ross says, all right, let's go. I think, yes, Goblin Rebel Master? Okay, so there's the trigger. Let's go. We'll see exactly what this is attacking. Does Ross care about Jace, or does he say, everybody at you? Now, of course, the reason he's attacking with those tokens is because when the tokens attack, they trigger the Rabble Master's pump. Now, they also do have to attack, but even though they are zero-power creatures, them attacking matters.
For sure.
You see Ross gripping that Stoke the Flames tightly. Again, does have a Titan Strength over there as well. Just a one of Titan Strength. We've seen Tom play Titan Strength in large numbers before with Boss Sly and other takes on his red decks, and they're all going at Jace. So it's time to attempt to get this thing off the table. Nick Sleece Ram looks like it does want to block. Rabble Master right now starts off at a 2. 2 pumps from the Goblin tokens will make it a 4, but Jace's trigger will make it a 3-power attacker.
And a lot of this may come back to early on in the game where James traded his Ram for a Rubble Blocker.
Very early.
He still has an Azorius Charm much over his hand. He hasn't been able to deploy here. He might have been able to shield up a little bit differently this game.
Yep. So again, everybody at Jace right now, those 2 creatures above the Rabble Master, the Goblins, those are 0-power creatures. Here's a Titan Strength. That'll pump up the Fire Drinker Satyr. Fire Drinker Satyr is a 1. Let's make it a 4 now. A Titan Strength Eidolon is a 1 as well, so that'll be 5. Now, of course, Tom will take 2 from the Eidolon. So he's going to go down to 18, which you do see, and he's going to scry here with his Titan Strength. And that's going to allow him to take care of the Jace. So again, Jace basically playing the role of a glorified Fog this turn.
It's traded with a Titan Strength, but yeah, was not the best I've seen Jace be in this matchup.
Absolutely. So there goes Jace. Nick Sleece Ram, of course, is going to survive. I'm going to pass the turn back. Mondrik is going to trigger this. He's going to go up to 14. But for Tom, that's a pretty good turn. He got some things done, got Jace out of the way. Jace did not provide much of an advantage. As you said, basically just traded for a Titan Strength. However, Mondrik's draw this turn was a good one.
Was. Now we'll see how much does Tom have left in the chamber here. But it pretty much had to be Supreme Verdict this turn, maybe Elspeth, to keep James in the game.
Supreme Verdict was the draw here for Mondrik this turn. Now he just wants to figure out how he wants to go about casting it. You have to believe he's going to cast it this turn. He does have a Hallowed Fountain there as well. He could play that untapped and go down to 12, leave up either a Mutavault to block or an Azorius Charm.
I think that you don't do that because you get the opportunity to cash in those cards for 2 damage down the line anyway.
Now, let's not forget, Ross did keep his card on top of his deck from the Scry with Titan Strength, so he knows exactly what he's going to be drawing. Past this Supreme Verdict, Mondrik does not. So again, James is just trying to figure out, okay, do I want to take 2 to be able to leave up again Mutavault or Azorius Charm, or do I play this into play tapped? No reason to take 2, clear up all the creatures and move forward. He's going to start by casting Supreme Verdict. 2, 3. And now this is the tough part, which is going to be the 4th one. And he's leaning towards Mutavault.
I think James needed to figure out how he's going to tap his mana before he started doing this, because
Yeah,
a lot has been revealed.
Yep. Now the question is, will he take 2 here? I'm kind of with you. I don't like taking 2 in this spot, and he's not going to. He's going to play Hallowed Fountain, tap, pass the turn back. Last card in his hand is an Azorius Charm. Ross with a Legion Loyalist. Going to fire up a Mutavault as well. We're going to come across for 3. Mondrik's going to go down to 11, and now Tom is going to play a Rakdos Cackler. So he is rebuilt, and now the pressure is on Mondrik right away to deal with this.
And you can see why Tom left Legion Loyalist on top of his deck. The card he was most worried about was Elspeth for James' last turn. He knew that James didn't have Supreme Verdict based on the way the game was shaping
Absolutely.
up. But Elspeth was definitely a possibility.
Again, we know about Azorius Charm. The other card there in Mondrik's hand is an Island. All he can do is pass the turn back, so Ross is going to untap. It's time for him to take a draw. Don't get a great look. We know he has a Stoke of Flames in his hand. The other card is a mystery. Mondrik's at 11. At this point, if you're Ross, you're hoping your opponent doesn't draw Sphinx's Revelation, but what can you do about it?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those spots you just have to keep your fingers crossed and hope nothing too bad happens. These decks play a lot of lands. Tom can probably beat 1-for-1 removal spells. Another sweeper's bad for him. He can beat Elspeth the way the board's shaped up right now because of Legion Loyalists. So James definitely has some threatening draws, and you just have to cross your fingers and hope to avoid them for a few turns.
Tom's draw was a Burning Tree Emissary, so he's going to try to figure out, all right, what can I beat here? Going to play Burning Tree Emissary. Going to add the mana. Going to fire up the old Mutavault, it looks like to me. He's going to come in with just his 2 power and 2 toughness creatures. Legion Loyalist is going to hang back on defense, has no interest in running, face forward into a Mutavault. Ross, of course, with the ability to bluff spells for that singleton red mana, either a Maka or another copy of Titan Strength. Heck, even a Shock. Sometimes these red decks do play that.
Sure.
Mutavault's going to go active here. It's going to look to trade with this Mutavault. Tom passes priority, says, that's fine with me.
Now if you're James and you use the Azorius Charm here, Tom can still use a pump spell. I mean, Tom might be happy playing around Last Breath and Azorius Charm. You can't be 100% sure that he has nothing here.
Mondrik looks like he's going to use that Azorius Charm, going to target the Rakdos Cackler. So that'll be Tom's draw step next turn. So that's going to go on top. Mutavaults will trade. Mondrik with just an island in his hand. He's hoping for a big draw right now. So let's see what the blue-white control player can draw. Don't get a great look at it. Again, we know there's an island. He's just going to pass the turn back, it looks like, over to Ross. Again, don't get a great look at what that card is. It's a Sphinx's Revelation. That's a good one. Mondrik's going to gain 3 and draw 3. So a timely top deck.
Doing it now so he doesn't get skull cracked, which I like. James has found the perfect card here now, several turns in a row.
And his draw off of that, there was a land. There's also Burmaz, but Tom does have that taken care of. Tom says, all right, let's get in for 3. Let's put you back down to 11. Here's a Rakdos Cackler. Going to unleash that, kick the turn back, still have my Stoke the Flames in hand. Mondrik's going to untap now. It's time for him to draw a card. He's got 4 in hand now. Temple of Mystery. And it looks like here for James, there are 3 lands and just that Burmaz. So take a look at the top card here.
And we know that Tom has the Burmaz covered by Stoke the Flames. Castable through Convoke.
Mondrik taking a long look at that top card. That top card is going to look like it's going to stay on top as the clock is ticking down here. The problem here for James is even if he's able to keep his head above water, it doesn't look like he's going to be able to win this game. So it looks like he is playing basically for a draw here, while Tom is certainly playing for the win. Now here's a Burmaz.
And how many times do you think Tom has gotten an unintentional draw with this style of deck in the last year?
I'm going to go with 0. I'm going to go with 0. So again, Mondrik did keep the top card on top of his deck from that temple. Ross. Looks like he may want to cast this Rakdos Cackler now. He will. And a little Convoke Skipoo.
Yeah, 1-mana creatures are essentially free.
So he will Convoke Stoke the Flames, target Burmaz. You can see Mondrik's hand, a Temple of Mystery and a Plains. 4 damage is going to be dealt there. So there goes that. In comes Ross for 4. Mondrik's going to go down to 7. This is lethal next turn.
And Elspeth does not help here because of the Legion Loyalist. So it's got to be Supreme Verdict, Jace. Removal spell gives James another turn.
Rev, Mutavault was the card that was kept on top. That's not all that exciting.
Well, Mutavault potentially lets him block. If Tom sends everything, he can block the Legion Loyalist and go to the next turn, and then Elspeth's live. Tom may not even offer up that trade, though.
Let's see what Ross finds for his turn. Again, if you're Tom in this situation, you're not playing around Sphinx's Revelation. What can you do? Nothing.
Well, the question here is, do you attack with Legion Loyalist or not?
The answer is a resounding yes. So the trigger is on.
The risk here is that if Tom does not win the game this turn, and James blocks the Legion Loyalist, Elspeth is now turned on as a draw.
It's time to activate. And it doesn't do James any good to block the 2-power creatures. They have First Strike and Trample.
Yeah.
So I think he has to block the Legion Loyalist. And that's what he's going to do, it looks like. So First Strike damage. Deal 6 to you. You're going to go down to 1. Regular damage. Mutavault's going to eat my Legion Loyalist. What's the boss's follow-up does he have when he doesn't? So Mondrik will untap. And we're going to work our way into time here. So it looks like he's going to be turn number 0. And he draw. Oh, wow.
Oh, and that is the Elspeth.
That is the Elspeth. Unbelievable. You said it. If he draws exactly Elspeth, maybe that attack with the Legion Loyalist is a poor one.
Well, maybe Tom's drawn a burn spell here. Maybe he's happy if James taps out for Elspeth, but that was the risk of last turn's attack.
The one thing we don't know is what the card is in Tom Ross's hand. So Elspeth's Sun's Champion is going to come into play. You saw James play the Temple of Mystery and Scry. The Sun's Champion is going to presumably tick up. And you do see the ability here for Mondrik to be able to activate Mutavault to block as well. Now, of course, Ross has plenty of redraws in this situation.
Any burn spell, Legion Loyalist. Yeah, there's a lot of redraws.
Ross is going to untap. It's turn number 1 of extra turns. Take a draw. He's going to attack with everybody. And it looks like Ross's hand right now is just 2 mountains. Mutavault's going to be active. It's time, it looks like, to do some blocking. Mondrik's going to put a Mutavault there. Token there. 2 tokens here. Yes. I like this block quite a bit, actually.
Yeah, James needs to start making forward progress here, so his Elspeth is not just chump blocking every turn.
That, and now Legion Loyalist isn't out anymore.
Yep.
It's turn 2. James Mondrik's going to draw a card. It's a copy of Bramaz, King of Oreskos.
Tom made a gamble with that attack. There's so many things you're playing around in that spot, so it's not clear to say that it's just a mistake, but that Elspeth was the one card he was hoping would not come off of James's deck there based on the attack he made. And James may be able to pull out a draw here.
Soldier tokens are going to come in. I have to imagine Mondrik will play this Bramaz as well. Tom says, get that die out of here. We said, no, actually, we're going to leave it here. We didn't know what turn it is, Tommy.
It's not for you, Tom. It's for, it's for the viewers at home.
Bramaz is in the house. Ross going to draw. Is it a Stoke the Flames? This is a land. That is a Stoke the Flames! And that is going to do it. Tom Ross, turn 3 of extra turns, will defeat James Mondrik. Rabble Red moves on to 1-0 with a timely top deck.
Can't even get a smile out of that man's face.
It's all business. It's all business. Come on. He's been here before. He'll be here again. You know what he doesn't want? Unintentional draw, with red in round 1. That's the last thing he wants.